Good morning and welcome to another episode of Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones, where we're taking Black folks into the future. Today, I have a, unique show. Up until this point, the most number of guests I had at one time has been 2. Today, we're breaking that record in a big way. And we're going to be talking with a group of writers from an organization called DWASF, DWASF. And we're going to find out what that means in a moment. But once again, as you're tuning in, this conversation is all about shaping the future of Black folk, talking about where we're going to be in the next 50, 60, 100, 200, 300 years and on into the future. That is at the core of what Afrofuturism is about. And Afrofuturism encompasses so many different mediums. We have artists, we have writers, we have poets, we have singers, we have dancers, okay? And today we're going to be talking with a group of writers, like I said, members of DWASF. So let's welcome them in. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Excellent. So first up, Cerise Wright, I would like for you to introduce yourself and we'll hear from the other members and then we'll get right into the conversation.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Cerise Wright. I am an author of a book called COG, a cyberpunk book, also other numerous poems, articles. I'm also the founder and president of DWASF, which stands for Diverse Writers and Artists of Speculative Fiction. And we're a support group. We try to put information out there about how to write Afrofuturism, which includes science fiction, horror, and fantasy. We try to put information out there about other writers, about conferences, writers' retreats, and information like that.
Great. And who else do you have with you?
I have Stafford Battle, Diane Williams, and Elmarie Wood, who will introduce themselves momentarily.
Hi, I'm Stafford Battle, and I have to say right off, I really feel privileged to be amongst fellow people who see Black folks in the future. This is inspiring. It's always inspired me. You know, for years, I used to write isolated, usually in a cubby hole or someplace. But then I discovered, hey, there's more of us out there writing and doing stuff and saying things. And so I've been to the conferences. I can remember the first conference my wife dragged me to in Boston, the one in January. And I saw a guy walking around in a Batman costume. I was like, great, but he was only like 4 or 5. And I'm saying, okay, that works. So I know. But again, I've done some short stories. I've got some books on Amazon. And if you get a chance, you can see me at my website at staffordbattle.org.
Excellent. Next up, who do we have?
Hi, I'm Diane Williams, and it's great to be here with you, William, and especially on OL, because ever since I came to this area, that's been my go-to station. But anyway, I'm a co-founder with everyone else here of DWASF. And what I've done in the past, I've written some short stories. I'm a real lover of science fiction, grew up loving it. And I'm the nerd that took Stafford to his first con because, well, I was tired of being like the only Black person I would see. So that's one. But one of the things I've done in the past is I had a site called Black Author Showcase where I promoted Black authors and tried to get other authors and publishers together to help support and get works out there. I was very, very excited to see once we did how many people were writing the types of things that I wanted to see. And so it, like most teaching, you learn more from your students than anything else. And I learned so much from that. And I love DWASF. I love promoting.
Excellent. And Ms. Wood.
Hi, I'm Elmarie Wood. I'm a psychological horror author. I write novels, short stories, screenplays predominantly, but I do dabble sometimes in poetry and essays. I have been writing for more years than I plan to divulge today, but I'm excited to still be part of the publishing community and getting work out there to create more exposure to speculative fiction.
Excellent. And we're also joined by LH Moore. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm LH Moore, and I am a speculative fiction author. And wow, I feel like I've been writing for forever now. But you can find my short stories and fiction and poetry in numerous publications and anthologies.
Excellent. Once again, I want to thank all of you for joining me today here on Into the Afroverse on WOLB, where information is power. That's 1450 AM and 95.9 FM. So first of all, how did this organization come into existence? Like, how did you guys come together and come up with this idea of creating a group such as this?
It was chicken wings.
I had published a
Definitely
book
chicken
in
wings.
2013, and my publisher sent me out to conventions, and I found I was either the only Black person there or one of several few. So I wanted to sort of create a group where we could go together and support one another. And we had attended a lecture in Baltimore on the history of Black science fiction by Fenderson Clark, who's the award-winning author of The Black God's Drums. And we met some more people and we got together and said, well, we need to do this more often. And then after I left, I said, well, I need to start a group to sort of formalize this. And then I invited people I knew. We met at, I think it was Bonchamp in Hyattsville. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
And we just sort of went from there.
Excellent. And what is like the driving force behind this? Like, what is it that you want to accomplish? What is it you're trying to work towards? And what do you want to see happen with this organization?
Well, for one, for me, I love Octavia Butler and Samuel Delaney, but there are a lot more of us out there. And I'd like, especially us, we need to know more about us. And for me, I think it's a positive thing when I can say, I know other Black writers. If you don't like my material, but there's other people out there you can read, and they're writing stories about us. That's for me what my biggest push was, to encourage people to read more stories with an Afrofuturistic flavor.
Excellent. And when people talk about Afrofuturism, you know, it's still relatively new. The term has been around for a little bit, but it's still relatively new, and it's coming more and more to the forefront. We hear more and more people talking about it. What does it mean to you? And feel free, anyone can chime in on this one. What does it mean to you when you hear Afrofuturism? What's the significance of it for you?
To me, it's about stories that center us, meaning persons of African descent. We're talking about being able to see us in the future, see us in fantasy land, see us in horror. You know, it's a movement. It's a movement. We're talking about film, TV, music, of course, literature, but in the end, it's all about seeing us in these genres, in these spaces.
Gotcha. Now, one of the things that I'm noticing, I'm sure you guys are aware of this as well. Now, when you're starting to see so many Black characters be incorporated into stories and so many Black centered stories come to the big and to the small screen, there's been like this pushback against the very thing that you talked about. This idea of seeing us in the future, seeing us in fantasy spaces and horror and so forth. Why do you think that is? Why do you think so many people are pushing back against this idea? For example, you know, for all you Star Wars fans out there, I'm sure you're aware of what happened when you had a Black actress added to the Obi-Wan Kenobi miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think accounts for that? Why has there been such a pushback in some areas?
Well, this Diane, I like to say that I think people, let's say the greater society wants to look like it's making progress. It wants to look like, yes, we understand that, yes, you are in the future. But once they really start to see, they start to become frightened that perhaps they will be pushed out of it and someone else will take their place. There's always this not missing out, but the fact that they think that we're here to take their place and to do away with them. So once we're in the future and we're doing things, what are we doing? Does that mean that Obi-Wan is not as great as he used to be because now there's a kick-ass woman who's really about to take him out? I
Right.
mean, and she happens to be Black. Uh, it is frightening when you look at it, but I don't even think the most liberal of the greater society even understands that they think that way, that perhaps they'll be moved over too much and they'll disappear. But I think it definitely does tie into something like that. Would anybody else agree with that, or what do you think?
Diane, I listened to what you said and it made sense to me, but I think that sometimes it's not even a conscious, and I do say sometimes, it's not a conscious thought.
No.
Because that's a lot of awareness of themselves, awareness of, where they fit in the world and where they think others fit in the world for people to have. And I think that sometimes when we talk about things like this, we give other people, I mean, I hate to put it this way, but we give a lot of people too much credit for being that self-aware and that,
That's true. That's true.
that I don't want to call it, I don't know what to call it specifically, but people are not in general so aware of what could be an intrinsic bias. And if you have this inherent focus that you've been raised with, that it just is a bias that sits in the back of your mind based upon how you have been socialized and how you continue to socialize yourself as you grow. It's not something that is forefront. It is a knee-jerk reaction. What Afrofuturism in my mind is here to do is to change that knee-jerk reaction to be something that's if it can't be something that's more reflective of what the world looks like as it is, then let's just change it so that you can see how one-sided it had been in the past. Let's change it so that you can see how one-sided looks from another perspective. And with a goal in mind of needing to reflect true societal, establishments. I mean, the world is not one race in the future. That doesn't make any sense because the world is not one race here now. So I think that Afrofuturism serves to be that springboard to sort of reflect real world, but if in a manner that's not necessarily siding with or joining with or placating or even prodding. It's more of a, well, here's what it looks like if you look at it from a different lens. What do you think now?
Yeah, and what's interesting is you kind of see the same conversations being had in the present, where folks are concerned with the growing numbers of this population or that population. So it makes sense that in the future, those concerns would continue. And it's, for me, I believe it's like science fiction and fantasy has been like this safe haven for a lot of the white population, if we're being frank. Growing up, think about the number of times you saw a Black person in a science fiction fantasy setting. Very, few times. So it was almost like this safe haven. And now I think some people do kind of see it as an invasion, if you will. But like you said, it's only reflecting what's already here. But it is problematic for some folks. Okay.
And I think traditional gatekeepers have kept that safe haven.
Yes. Yes.
And now, and there's more platforms for people to put out their own stories. So the gatekeepers are losing their importance, and new gatekeepers are coming along, and they're saying, hey, we need more stories. We need to expand. And then the people who aren't used to that, they do the knee-jerk reaction.
Excellent. If you're just joining us, this is Into the Afroverse with William Jones here on 1450 WOL AM radio, 95.9 FM radio. And you can also follow us online, WOLDCnews.com. We're joined today once again by the members of DWASF. We have this eclectic group of writers coming together talking about Afrofuturism. Before I continue on, can you guys tell us how we can reach you as individuals, and also how can we reach the organization?
The organization is online at DWASF.org. That's DWASF.org. We also have an Instagram, Twitter, Facebook accounts at Diverse Creators. You can find me and my books at kceres.net. That's KCERES.net.
And you can find me, as I said earlier, staffordbattle.org, staffordbattle.com, sbattle.com, and one or two others. But yes, always Google me.
Excellent.
You can find me, LH Moore, at lhmorecreative.com. I'm on Twitter at LHMELLEHM. And I'm on Instagram at LH_Moore.
Diane, how can we find you? Are you with us, Diane?
I'm here. I was just coughing. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah. I don't think I have a website anymore. And most of my things, you can find me through DWASF, through DWASF.org, or on the Facebook page, or through Twitter through DWASF right now.
Excellent. And Elmarie?
Yep, you can find me at elmariewood.com. If you go there, you'll find links to all of my work and also my Facebook and Twitter presences.
Excellent. So once again, we were talking about the significance of storytelling, Afrofuturism in particular. In you guys' opinion, how does storytelling create a better present and a better future? What do you see as the significance here in terms of your work and the work of others in shaping a better future for all of us, really?
Well, the brain is wired to encode memories in terms of narrative, and telling stories is one of the most powerful means that we have to influence, teach, and inspire each other. We forge connections among people, convey ideas, culture, history, and values. So I think that is a great basis for projecting ourselves into the future. We're coalescing our history and filling in the gaps of our history that was lost due to colonization. We're finding out new stories about Africa. We're finding out new stories about Black people who live in Australia or Europe or Asia even. I was looking at a video about this biracial woman in China and how she has to navigate her life. And if you put all these stories together, we find out so much, and we can take that with us into the future, because so much of a science fiction in the past is, excluded us or only had one of us or killed us off at the end. So I think it's important for us as a people to see ourselves not only surviving, but thriving.
Yeah, I see stories as providing the inspiration to overcome the shortcomings of our day-to-day lives. If you weren't inspired to dream that you could do something better, you would give up. I think a lot of us would have given up if we didn't think that there's something better out there. And the storyteller, the one person who have sat around the campfire and said, there's another world, there's a better place. And all we have to do is not only dream it, but start to build towards the dream. So stories in all of human history, regardless of, where we came from, are what keeps us going. I think dreams in a way are stories. They give a release of the tension of our day-to-day lives. It says, let's build something more exciting and better. So I think stories are critical to the human function.
Very good.
I would agree with everything said there, but also the humanization of us, for lack of a better term. I think that so often and for so long, we were relegated to living through a perspective that wasn't necessarily ours. Might have been ours based upon the country we lived in, but not necessarily from our ethnicity, our backgrounds, our familial, relationships, and definitely not our history. So now the storytelling that people are doing, that that's happening now in such grand form, changes the landscape. It gives new writers, or just young people in general, or anyone who didn't know, a backdrop to pull from and something to see that looks like them, and a way to know that we can do this moving forward. And it's not, their experiences shouldn't be minimized. It's a validation of sorts, if you will. But at the same time, it's allowing us to lay the groundwork that should have been laid a long time ago. We're just now picking up the stones and putting them down where they should have been.
I see.
To me,
I really-
storytelling is a form of envisioning. And, when we're talking about how we see ourselves, whether it's right now or how we want to see ourselves in the future, or drawing from our past in terms of how we want to see ourselves in the future. In the end, it's all about envisioning.
I wanted to say that I really agree with what El Marie said, especially when it comes to children. Children, when you're small, and especially if you're a bookish child, you're looking through every book that you can, and you just want to see yourself. And this is why I'll mention B. Sharice, one of our members, even though she's not with us right now. But the fact is that creating something for a child to see and see themselves, see her, him, there's to see themselves in that book. That is so powerful. It's the difference between my reading Edgar Allan Poe and being frightened growing up, and actually reading something by El Marie Wood and being frightened growing up, and knowing that what she wrote was closer to what I lived, where I lived. And maybe that horror was a lot more horrible, but still it was part of my experience. And children have not gotten that for so long. But when you get that, that makes it so possible for when you grow up to imagine the future, to see it, to not think this is just something. This is real. This future is real. It's not just made up on TV or in script.
I see. And, with all of this conversation going on, great conversation, we're coming up against the end of the clock. And I want to invite you guys back next week. Would you be open to coming back to continuing this conversation with us next week?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
Excellent. So if you want to hear this conversation continue, ladies and gentlemen, you got to tune in next week, 10 a.m. into the Afroverse, WOL 1450 AM, 95.9 FM. And like I said, you can follow us online, WOLDCnews.com. Next week, I want to talk more about the significance of this storytelling and shaping the minds of young people, and also start to talk about what do you think has been missing for so many generations past, and what has been the impact of it. And now that things are seemingly changing, we're also going to talk about whether it's changing, whether it's going in the right direction, or the wrong direction. But we also want to look at the impact that this is going to have on future generations. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in this morning. This is Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones, where we're taking Black folks into the future. Have a good day.